What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, and what I guess could be officially our first episode looking at the 2026 season. Super Bowl is behind us. We did a mock draft earlier this week. It is time to start looking at things that are going to affect your 2026 season, and that starts with free agency. And when we go by position, we start with a very specific one, and that is the quarterback. I've looked at the show sheet. It's not very exciting, but it's a good thing we have a great guest. Let's get into it. What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. No Joe Zolo this week. He is cruising around the Caribbean with the Savannah Bananas. So Ryan Weiss in the host seat. With me as always, Josh Hudson. Josh, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
This is always the good time of the year when we start riding right into the off-season stuff, looking at, who's switching teams and who's signing stupid contracts that they probably don't deserve. And then getting embarrassed by the fact that they probably did deserve them. That's the always fun part.
Not always. I feel like that Christian Kirk contract that everybody hated, that being a bad contract.
I was more so referring to Milton Williams because he left my Eagles last year and then turned around and played lights out and ended up in the freaking Super Bowl this year.
There you go. Yeah. Well, with the focus moving to the 2026 season, we also are bringing guests back. And we started this thing off with a banger. You know him from everywhere, fantasy football, but we're not talking about the past anymore because my good friend Alfredo Brown has a future in this industry. Alfredo, first and foremost, welcome back to No Punt Intended. Let everybody know what you got going on. Take the floor for a few minutes, my friend.
Wow, Ryan, did my mom write the intro for you there? I feel like such a special boy right now.
That's the goal.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's a lot of fun to kind of get out of the fantasy space and just talk NFL, talk about the league in general, because it's different. You can actually have like an opinion and not just like the data says this, and you can just have some fun talking ball. And so I love it, man. It's my favorite time of year. Like you said, I'm kind of doing a bunch of different things right now. We've got the Front Row NFL show that we have new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. And then Pretend GM is my fantasy football show that I've got, some solo episodes myself. I have guests do that twice a week as well. So yeah, you can catch me pretty much anywhere.
Now, Front Row, you were doing with great friends of this show, one of which is a regular contributor with us. So talk a little bit more about that. Where can people find that?
Yeah, so Front Row NFL show, you can find that wherever you get your podcast. It's going to be on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. I'm doing that with Samantha Holt and Jagger May. And I think Jagger said it best when we were like, okay, like how do you pitch this to someone? It's like, well, we're your friends that know ball. Like, we really don't want this to be some sort of like preachy thing where we're just there acting like we know more than everyone else. Like, listen, we do study the game and we do know a lot, but we're also just kind of like trying to loop you into the conversation and just enjoy that with you, have some fun with it. And that's what we got to do last time after our reaction to the Super Bowl. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of NFL draft stuff as we come up to that. I'm making an entire rookie guide. Jagger's working on a rookie guide as well. So we've got a ton of rookie scouting portfolios already set up. So we're really excited to deep dive into that.
Always a great thing when two of the people who I follow for rookie takes are now putting out their own rookie guides. I feel like I'm going to know a lot about rookies this year because some of the best takes we've gotten, no offense to you, Alfredo, we've had Jagger on for some of our rookie shows for like 4 years running, and he has given us some of the best takes that we've had this entire time. So it's a great group of people and ones you should be following. So thank you very much for joining us, Alfredo.
Absolutely.
And when you're done hitting the follow button and subscribe button for them, go ahead and hit it over here at Club Fantasy as well. If you haven't, we are working our way towards 2,000 subs. We'd be more than happy if you were watching on YouTube. If you went ahead and hit that subscribe button, if you happen to be listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We do have super chat. If you want to throw us a couple bucks, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. The off-season shows don't get that busy. We're going to answer any question you guys drop in the chat, but if you want to throw us a couple of dollars, we're not going to be mad at that either. And if you want to do something with us for free, jump into the Discord. Cost you absolutely nothing. We have a lot of great people going on over there. We'll be talking football the entire offseason. Our buddy Hoove is always talking NFL draft and things you can bet things you can count on. And we're even talking fantasy baseball in some of the chats. So we got a lot going on over there. It's free. Josh is dropping the link in the description, or Josh dropping the link in the chat, and it'll be in the description of this video. But it is time to get this episode started because we have a hard out at just before 9:30 tonight. So let's get into the damn show. It's about quarterbacks. It's about free agency. And before we get into the actual players, let's talk a little bit about the teams that are going to need a quarterback. We got the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, New York Jets, Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns, Miami Dolphins, Atlanta Falcons, the Indianapolis Colts, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Josh has notes for each of these teams. So Josh, I can let you chime in here a little bit before we jump to the panel question. When you look at these teams, Josh, I guess let's start with your first question is who do we think will make the biggest splash? But Josh, I'd like you to just pick one of these teams and maybe explain to people why you think they need a quarterback, maybe for one of these teams that people aren't sure need a quarterback.
Yeah, I'll start with the Cardinals. You bring in a new head coach. This team feels like it's perpetually rebuilding since Bruce Arians and Kurt Warner moved on. They bring in Kyler Murray. He's had a couple of high seasons lately, not so much, coming back from injuries, all these types of things. They tried with Jonathan Gannon. That didn't work. Maybe that's just karma biting him in the ass. I don't know. But bring in Mike LaFleur. It's going to be a transition period, right? So one would think that he's going to actually get more than 1 year and be one of these like one and done guys. I feel like when you come from this like Shanahan and McVay tree, it automatically gets you like 3 years. So we'll see if that plays out. And if it does, I think that if they do ultimately end up moving off of Kyler Murray, which is a hell of a lot easier for them to do this offseason than it is for Miami to move off of Tua Tagovailoa. If they do end up moving off of Kyler, though, this season's going to be a mulligan because there is no one out there that can even serve as like a mild bridge quarterback, in my opinion. Like you're basically saying we're playing for the a top 5 pick in the 2027 draft, which is not going to be a bad thing because there's a lot of good quarterbacks or what we think are going to be good quarterbacks coming into this draft. And I know Alfredo can definitely speak to that a lot more than I can. But they'll have their pick of the litter at that point, right? So if you move off of Kyler, you get a couple of draft picks, you clear some of that cap space, which really is the more important thing. You start the process, right?
Yeah.
That's what teams should be doing. And I think that's really the route that Arizona should be looking to take heading into 2026.
Yeah. The one thing you pointed out before I get into this question here, Arizona and Miami in very similar situations. And then I think you can turn around and say the Falcons and the Colts kind of in similar situations because you would think they had their guy. Now, Daniel Jones is a free agent, but you would assume they were ready to commit. But then the injury kind of throws a monkey wrench in that. And Alfredo, I think that kind of leads into this question. When you look at these 9 teams, which do you think is going to make the biggest splash when it comes to real football? Fantasy football kind of comes ancillary to that this early in the season because we don't know what's going to be around them. But when it comes to the biggest splash for real football, do you see one of these 9 teams as doing something special?
I think it's got to be the Steelers. Like if there's a team that's out of all of these that is ready to compete right now, that could be a playoff contender. I mean, the Colts as well, right? But
yeah,
I think they're kind of saddled with Daniel Jones and they can franchise tag him and let Anthony Richardson get some starts and they sort of have a champagne problem. The Steelers really don't have a quarterback. I don't think we're going to see Aaron Rodgers come back. You've got Mike McCarthy there now. You kind of do have all the pieces set in place. There's not going to be a rookie quarterback for them to get. I mean, they can maybe go with Ty Simpson in the middle of the first round. I like Ty Simpson, but I think that would be a reach to ask him to go in and win games and take a team to the playoffs in his first year. So with the Steelers, like they could be one of those teams that Derek Carr is coming out of retirement for and hopping into a Mike McCarthy offense, throwing to DK Metcalf. And I can start to see all the puzzle pieces fit together for us to say like, oh damn, the Steelers are like kind of formidable. And they're not this team that was on the verge of a breakdown at the end of last year.
It's interesting. You bring up Derek Carr. I completely left him off of this list. And I remember seeing some buzz like, you know what, maybe he might be somebody that looks to come out of retirement, especially now that the Saints, seemingly have their quarterback in Tyler Shuck. Yep. Maybe Carr does make an appearance. Steelers good work. I mean, them bringing in McCarthy makes it really seem like Aaron Rodgers is probably going to come back for another year, but I would be really interested to see Derek Carr in that landing spot.
Yeah, I was going to push back on two things you said, Alfredo. First and foremost, what a world that we're calling Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson champagne problems. Like that is not what I would have thought we had been talking about. But more importantly, I was going to say, Alfredo, that's a little bit of a different take. Most thought that bringing McCarthy in kind of cemented Rodgers. You don't see it that way?
I mean, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion, right? Like enough of these guys have. I think enough of Aaron Rodgers has had enough issues with head coaches in the past, and I think that he's professional, right? Like he'll go do his job, and Mike McCarthy is going to say all the right things of, oh, we'd love to have Aaron back, great locker room guy, this and that. But Mike McCarthy likes to have a vertical offense. He wants to push the ball deep, and that was something we kind of saw. Aaron Rodgers didn't have his best stuff anymore. Like he didn't have his fastball anymore. Everything was a check down. The throws with DK Metcalf were not quite on schedule. It's not what Rodgers is used to. Derek Carr loves to push the ball downfield. He could just never get on the same timing as Chris Olave in New Orleans. Yeah. But now you get him with DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh and Mike McCarthy's offense. I could actually see that working out pretty well.
Josh, do you see a splash from this group?
I think the biggest splash is going to be if Miami can actually trade Tua, simply because that's going to be an albatross of a contract, and I'm going to be very curious to see how much they're willing to pick up from said contract to make a move happen. I think a team to look out for with Tua is Atlanta. Kind of weird. They'll have some cap space. Yeah. They've obviously got their own problems. I don't think that Kirk Cousins comes back, even though I think it is a really good fit.
I think they already announced like he's gone. So
yeah, but again, I mean, he has a relationship with Stefanski going back to their Minnesota days. So there's a chance that maybe something could be worked out, especially because it's a whole brand new front office, right? But you look at that style of offense, it's not the same as what McDaniel ran, and this kind of derivative from the Shanahan tree, but there's enough there that Stefanski's not going to be somebody that needs him to run around on these naked boots and all these things and get out of the pocket, where quite frankly Tua is not very mobile, right? He doesn't succeed that way. It's drop back, hit the target, throw, right? If Stefanski just wants to say, do that and then hand the football off, Tua can do okay. And then it serves as a bridge until they figure out what they're getting with Michael Penix coming back from what feels like a 15th torn ACL in his career.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something that could work. This team's going to end up hitting another hard reset here shortly anyway. So fuck it. We ball at this point, right?
And that's kind of was in my notes is when I looked over the names at quarterback, I'm like, is there a splash here? And so the two teams that came up for me were Atlanta and the other is Minnesota, because they feel like they're a quarterback away, and Minnesota may have let that quarterback slip away as he wins the Super Bowl. But it seems like they have all the right pieces in place. Alfredo, is there a situation, and neither of you brought them up, so I'm going to guess it's no. Is there a situation where Minnesota cuts ties with JJ McCarthy this early in for any of these guys? Are they a team that could be in play for a Derek Carr and make JJ McCarthy now sit in his third year yet again?
No, I think that what they end up doing is they try to do the safe thing where they can sort of ride the fence here. Like you're playing both sides, so you always come out on top. Like I can totally see one. There's already the rumors swirling around that Kirk Cousins is going to go back.
Yeah,
to Minnesota.
that seems like the logical.
The connection is just so easy there. He's got the locker room. He's got Justin Jefferson, all these guys that he's played with for so long. And if you do have Kirk Cousins come in and he is competition for JJ McCarthy, you're just kind of saying, well, JJ is going to sit and learn from Kirk, right? And like you can kind of get away with that and let Kirk start some games. And then if Kirk struggles, JJ goes in. But if they go out and they get a Tua Tagovailoa, a Derek Carr, someone, that's a little bit younger, maybe a little more sauce, and they start to play well, then you kind of have to admit your failure with JJ McCarthy. I don't think they move on from him, but I think what they want to do is sort of set it up where it's like, hey, we're not benching him again. We're just getting him the reps he needs, let him learn from a veteran here in practice. I think it's just overall a really bad look, man. Like, I don't know how the Vikings come back from this. Kevin O'Connell's a really good coach, but the JJ McCarthy thing, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, just everything going on there, it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah. All right, we're going to shift away from the teams a little bit, move into the players. But before we do so, we did pick up a couple of questions, or at least one question. The other was more facetious. But Spock asks, 4-point touchdown, are we looking for Lamar or Caleb? I'm going to go on the assumption that we are talking dynasty in February. I don't know that this would be a redraft question this early. Spot, correct us if you're still in the chat there. But let's look from a dynasty standpoint. Obviously, Caleb, a few years younger there, Alfredo, but hasn't fully lived up to the potential in 2 seasons.
Yeah, I think I'm still going to go with Lamar here. I think that we can still have a good offense over there in Baltimore. I mean, we are a year away from talking about Lamar as an MVP guy. Yeah, he had a down year. Caleb's year was better, but Caleb still had a lot of shortcomings. I think he just had more of the hype moments that I think you start to get this ether around him where you're like, oh, he's taking the step. He's taking the step. It's like, well, Lamar's already taken the step. He's taken the step a bunch of times. And for fantasy, like, I'm cool with him 4-point passing touchdown for sure.
Yeah, the 4-point, I think, gives him a kick there, Josh.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you're still going to get more rushing yards from Lamar at this point, and he's thrown more touchdowns in a season than Caleb ever has, multiple times. So I don't see why the 4-point really matters all that much. Like, give me the rushing upside with Lamar. So,
yeah, you can just get it so many different ways from Lamar. Obviously, he looked terrible at points last season, but let's not pretend Caleb hasn't had his fair share of terribleness occasionally as well. Yeah. It's not like Lamar's old. It's Lamar. And then Vince
actually, I found this out today when I was doing some research. He's entering year 9 in the NFL. And that just like blew my freaking mind. I was like, really? We've had Lamar already for 8 seasons? That's crazy.
That is wild. Maybe he's older than I think. And Vince, I'm not going to pop this up because I don't want to lose your current question, but I like Caleb. You're thinking Joe. I am very pro Caleb. I just, in fantasy football, I'm taking Lamar. I wanted to leave this up for a second because I want to get Alfredo's opinion, but I wanted to give Hoove a little credit. He's won the show over while we spent 10 months destroying Tyler Shuck. By November, Josh, Joe Zolo, and myself, we were all on board, Alfredo. What are your thoughts on the old rookie Tyler Shuck down there for the New Orleans Saints?
I'm a Tyler Shuck guy.
All right.
I can't remember exactly what the rankings were last year for the rookie rankings, but I believe he was my quarterback 3 or 4. Like, I remember being much higher than everyone else I was working with at the time.
Yeah.
And the argument was always, well, he's old.
Yes.
Great. That means he's prime age for a starting quarterback. Like, they
mine
last
was
in the
he couldn't
NFL
stay
much
healthy.
longer.
That was mine. So
and that I get. And that I get like 100%, right? Like, you can be worried about that, but then like that's going to sort of sort itself out naturally. If he can't stay healthy, he can't stay healthy. But if we're just going to look at ability and who could flourish in the NFL just based on a skill set, and that's something that I've really started to lean more into is, do these quarterbacks have tools? If they can extend a play, if they have arm strength, all these other things. I'm less about the timing quarterbacks. You can blame Tua for that. And a lot more about these guys that have the tools, man. Like Tyler Shuck, I think the Saints got a real one there.
Yeah, so I definitely beat the old thing into the ground. I'm not gonna lie, which as a guy with my beard, I'm allowed to do that. I changed my tune quickly. I was not as high on Shuck as you were, Alfredo. What I will say is once the landing spots came out, looking at redraft, I moved Shuck up my rankings because I was like, well, this is exactly where he needs to be. Like, you can beat Spencer Rattler for a job, and this is a Kellen Moore offense that can work for fantasy football. So it didn't take long for me to change my mind. But as always, credit to our buddy Hoove, who has just been conducting the Tyler Shuck train for even.
And that's why the Saints aren't in this list, because we do believe in Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, there you go.
26.
All right. So when we look at the actual quarterbacks who are going to be available, I'm going to read this list off and let you guys kind of give your opinions here on these guys. Daniel Jones is coming off that injury, but he is a free agent, signed a 1-year deal last year, as did Aaron Rodgers. Malik Willis out, well, likely out in Green Bay. Russell Wilson out with the Giants. Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor's in a void year. Joe Flacco's in a void year. Kenny Pickett, Jimmy Garoppolo, Mitch Trubisky, and Trey Lance. Alfredo, when you look at these quarterbacks, this group, and this is kind of where I said Is there a splash? It's not an exciting group of names unless this was, 10 years ago for Aaron Rodgers. Do you see one or multiple of these guys as starters? Obviously, we're going to end the show with who we think ends up where. So this is going to give you guys some hints here. But Alfredo, do you see any of these guys as starters going into the 2026 season?
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Jones is almost a foregone conclusion that if he's healthy, he's the starter there in Indy, and they can just franchise tag him. It's going to be a hell of a lot of money for this year, but I think they kind of have a responsibility to do that, bring him back. He was so successful on that team. And then I think the other two guys are probably Aaron Rodgers and Malik Willis. Now, where they fit, I think a lot of people are connecting the dots of Malik Willis to Miami. I mean, but we'll see about that. But I think Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Malik Willis, those could be the three guys that are starters next season.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm in that exact same boat. I think Jones goes back to the Colts. I think the Steelers ultimately bring back Aaron Rodgers. And I am connecting the dots. I'm taking the chalk and saying Malik Willis to the Dolphins. But, and again, it's to me, it's ultimately going to figure out how much of the contract the Dolphins have to pick up from Tua on whether or not they could even bring in Malik Willis. Otherwise, they may have to backload that contract so heavily that it may end up deterring them a little bit. But I think he's probably going to get something similar to what Justin Fields got last year in the 2 for $20 range. And again, you're basing it off of 6 starts, it feels like, and 3 in Green Bay. So it's definitely high risk, but I think his rushing upside showed that he could very much be high reward as well. And not even just the rushing upside, but dude's completing almost 80% of his passes in those 3 starts in Green Bay. And that's something to speak of. So I think another name to potentially look at, Jimmy Garoppolo, following Mike LaFleur from the Rams to the Cardinals and kind of serving as like a bridge there. I know that Brissett is still under contract, but where we have seen Jacoby Brissett succeed over the last few seasons that he's had opportunities, it has not been in this style of an offense. So I think LaFleur could see that as, you know what, you're expendable. We can move off of you the same way that we can move off of Kyler. And I'm going to bring in the guy that I know works and operates within my system.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to this section because I'm in the exact lockstep with you two. I said Jones and Rodgers feel like the for sure. The wild card here, and you kind of get tired talking about this, is always Aaron Rodgers, because does he want to come back? Like, that we got to play this game for a few months. And is McCarthy going to be cool? I think of all coaches, wouldn't McCarthy be the one who's most cool with him skipping everything leading up to the start of the season, because there is a familiarity there. Because it's easy to say Jones and Rodgers, but you got the injury, you got the old man effect. And then that's where that opens things up for Malik Willis, because of this specific list, Willis is the most desirable. But then the next kind of domino to fall is what happens with Kyler Murray, because I look at this as it seems like, I'm not counting Indy, because I feel like Indy kind of decides their fate. The Jets, the Cardinals, and the Steelers are just wide open right now. And it's a question of, how is it just going to be a shift? Everybody's going to just move around in a circle and see if you fare better in the change of scenery. So, I mean, I don't feel like there's a ton we need to hit on in this section specifically. I'll throw one out. Actually, let's go ahead and, I'm going to save the stars, Josh, for when we get to the landing spot section. But I do want to, someone joked about Joe Flacco a little bit. Alfredo, do you think there's anything left in the tank? Because I was shocked when he came back for the 2025 season. I thought this was a thing where he came back in 2024 to help some people out. And then shit just got even more weird in 2025, where we said from the beginning, the Browns should have went with their younger guys. Then the Browns trade him in division and just upset the Steelers terribly. It didn't end up affecting anything. But is this just a career resurgence for the ages, where Joe Flacco is just going to keep playing now until Aaron Rodgers quits?
Yeah, man, I think Joe Flacco has juice to play till he's 60 at this point. Like, you mean Pro Bowler Joe Flacco?
Yeah, that's true.
Put some respect on his name.
The Browns, right? What is it? The Browns were one of the only teams in the NFL with 2 Pro Bowlers this year.
Pro Bowl quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think it's the crazier stat, though. Joe Flacco's won a Super Bowl, and we know how good he's been throughout his career. This was the first time he's ever made the Pro Bowl. That, to me, is the more wild aspect.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, he's probably playing before the Pro Bowl existed. All right, let's move on from that. Like I said, that section with these names, there's, you know what? There is one more name I want to talk about. One more, because he was a 3rd overall pick in the draft. Is there any hope for Trey Lance, Alfredo? What were your thoughts on Trey Lance coming out of college? And is this something where you think, is there any hope?
I mean, I didn't love Trey Lance coming out of college. But I sort of let the whole fantasy football of it all kind of suck me in, where I'm just like, ooh, he could run though. And like, running's cool. That gets you points, right? And then you sort of forget that like homie didn't have a lot of starts, and it was a bad level of competition and so many other things. But then you start to look at it and you go, oh man, he's number 3 overall pick. Like you said, they must see something, and that's a smart organization. Maybe I don't know shit. Like, these guys really understand the quarterback position, so let me believe in them. It just didn't work out. And honestly, we even got to see a little bit of it again in brief action for the Chargers this past year. And I just don't know that it's there. I think the league is always going to have a door open for guys like Lance, who can offer a skill set that other quarterbacks can't. A guy who can extend plays, a guy with a live arm, a guy who has a rushing ability. There's always going to be a backup quarterback that they're like, we need a guy like that. We need a Taysom Hill type of guy, you know, that can go in for different packages. So I don't think there's a starting job in his future, but I think there are going to be plenty of backup jobs in his future.
Sounds to me like you just predicted Trey Lance to the Saints. We'll save that for later on in the show.
Or the Broncos.
That's a much better.
You know, Sean Payton's been wanting his Joker for a while. Maybe that is Trey Lance. Who knows?
That's interesting. I did not think we were going to go there with this. Before we move on, if you like what you're hearing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week, hit that subscribe button. We go live every Wednesday between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. If you happen to be listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. We do have Super Chat, and you can always jump in the Discord. We are talking fantasy football just about every single day of the week. Now, there are other quarterbacks that are very likely not going to be playing with their teams heading into next season. These are the ones that are potentially on the move. It's going to take a domino to fall. You got Justin Fields. Josh notes that a trade would save them the most money. A post June 1st cut saves them about $10 million. Kyler Murray, trade would cause a $18 million dead cap hit, but save them $34 million overall. Tua Tagovailoa, the cap hit is incredible. $45 million of dead cap. They're only saving $11 million if they move on from Tua. Geno Smith only saves about $8 million for the Raiders, but a trade would save them $26 million. Kirk Cousins did restructure his contract. Post June 1st cut, it would be a $22 million dead cap hit. Like I said, the most recent news I saw on Cousins is that he's gone June 1st. Anthony Richardson, seems likely he's done in Philly, though I did note earlier, Alfredo, you had some pushback on that. And then Mac Jones did a great job for the 49ers. It seems like maybe he deserves another shot. And I think these are the ones that we need to probably focus the most on here, Alfredo. When you look at these guys, let's take these questions in turn. Are any of these guys are going to end up on a new team and thrive? Like, do you see one of these guys where a change of scenario is exactly what they need to maybe be a good quarterback again for football?
That's really tough, man. And it's just like, I want to leave that light on for him because we just saw Sam Darnold do it. It's weird for me to say like it's different with some of these guys. Like Tua has so many physical limitations that he's, no matter what, he's going to have to be in some sort of timing based offense. Gosh, I think like the only guy that I see that has been able to thrive and could keep doing it was Daniel Jones, who we saw this past year. And it's horrible that now he has the torn Achilles, but that's kind of the only guy that I see. Kyler makes me think. Right. But
how could he not?
He doesn't play well in structure. Like he will create problems for himself. And it's just such a weird thing that Kyler does. If there's someone who I think could do it, I think it's Kyler, but he really has to end up in the right system.
Yeah. Josh, do you see any starters out of this group?
Yeah, I'm looking at Kyler too. I think the Jets are going to be the team that make the most sense when you look at, what they have in terms of cap space, currently sitting at the fourth most, roughly about 67 million. I'm sure that could even go up with, cuts, restructures, all that good stuff. Sitting at the second overall pick in the draft, and so many draft picks that they have over the next 2 seasons, especially in the first round. I think they have 5 first-round picks. This can be that 1-year experiment, right? Like Kyler has no guaranteed money on his contract after 2026. So if they really wanted to, they could swing the trade, make it work, or maybe it bombs and they end up right back in the top, 5, 10, whatever. But let's say that he's serviceable. Well, if he's serviceable, guess what? They've got 3 first-round picks. They can figure out how to move up and still get a young guy that maybe sits for a year for Kyler, or they say, you know what, Kyler just led us to the freaking playoffs. Hey, now we've got 3 first-round picks that we can build the rest of this team out and actually support him. Yeah. Frank Reich coming in as the offensive coordinator, quite honestly, is very interesting because he worked with Carson Wentz once upon a time, and Carson Wentz likes to work off script and likes to get out of the pocket, roll out. Obviously, they're very different player profiles. I mean, you're talking about Wentz, who's 6'5", Kyler's 5'6" on a good day, but you're talking about still somebody that needs to get out of the pocket and make things happen and can use his legs. And I think that's where he can really fit within the system that Frank Reich is ultimately going to bring to the Jets. Now, again, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They're going to clean house anyway. They're going to bring in a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. They're going to be at the top of the draft, and they can draft a quarterback. So I think when you're looking at how this team is currently structured, Kyler for them makes the most sense out of really anybody that's either free agent, cap casualty, trade, what have you.
Alfredo, do you think Miami is so desperate to get rid of Tua? Because, I mean, what an incredible cap hit this would be. Is this a Brock Osweiler situation where Miami would have to pay someone to take Tua away from them? Because we saw that in the league history recently.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. It's just, I don't know, maybe like it's because I am a Dolphins fan. I don't know what team does that. Like what team looks and says, I can fix him, like that's.
Come on, Alfredo. You know the size of the egos of these coaches in the NFL. Somebody's going to think that.
But when we look at, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but like when you look around at all the teams that need quarterbacks, you start to say like, who's going to do that?
I had such trouble with him.
Like, is it the only team that I could see that maybe thinks they can do it is the New York Jets, because you're going to have an offense there where a guy has to play on time and has to play in a system?
Yeah.
That's maybe it. And I've heard the rumors that the Jets are interested, which is just wild. But okay, sure.
Seen this guy twice a year for what, 5 years now, and that's the conclusion you come to.
To be fair, Aaron Glenn hasn't, and Frank Reich hasn't. So they're Kyler's new to them. Yeah, when I looked at this group, to answer the question as it's written, starts and thrives, the answer is no one. I gave up on Kyler a while ago, and I don't see a situation in any of our landing spots. I think the most desirable landing spot weapons wise, and I understand their offensive line is shit, but the Raiders are interesting, but we all know where they're going. And so like no one's going to the Raiders, and that just makes it interesting, which brings us to serviceable. And I'm going to be honest, you guys kind of both just answered serviceable, but there is one player that neither of you mentioned that I did want to bring up, and I had kind of touched on him earlier on the show. And that is Mac Jones. I don't think before the season, or I guess during the season, I had said out loud, Mac Jones is going to start somewhere next year. Spoiler alert, when I get to the landing spots, I couldn't find it. So I don't think he's going to. But Josh, I've been saying for a while, I'm going to use this team specifically. The Bengals are always irresponsible by not having a premier backup for Joe Burrow. He takes hits, he gets hurt, and they have a damn good team that can win. I think some of these teams that have quarterback questions, Mac Jones needs to be their guy, where you have an injury-prone quarterback or you have a 46-year-old Matt Stafford. Like, these are guys where it's time to pay some money and get Mac Jones on your roster after what we saw this season, Josh.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that stands in front of Mac Jones is that Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers have pretty much said, we're not moving him. And so I don't think that they're going to trade him to another team where he's ultimately going to be a backup, right? Like, if they do make a move, it would be to somebody like the Jets where he legitimately has a chance to start because you want to do right by the player, right? Like it's kind of the same thing with like your offensive coordinator. So if your head coach is a play caller, yet your offensive coordinator doesn't call plays, you give him the opportunity to make a lateral move where they actually have a chance to make plays or call plays, right? But Shanahan's already proven he's not going to let his OC go for an opportunity to make calls. So he's certainly not going to let Mac Jones go because Kyle Shanahan sucks. That's just
Alfredo, you see it the same way. Is Mac Jones in Brock Purdy purgatory?
I mean, it sounds like it. I was going to say that I would have thought a really good spot for him to kind of keep going is in Arizona, where there's not a lot of pressure to try to have to win now. He has a familiarity with the system that they're going to be running over there. And it's not some sort of big high pressure market. Could you imagine Mac Jones back in a big ass market like New York? I was just thinking about it right now of Tua being in New York and the sound bites and how they would cruise. Like, dude, it would be bad, man.
The only thing Tua would accomplish for the Jets, he would get them that number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, honestly, yeah. Tank with Tua. Like, that's all you could do.
Tank with Tua. Oh, how far we've come.
That's all you can really do at this point, dude. But yeah, I think that Mac Jones is going to be really good in one of these Shanahan style systems, but he's already in one. And I don't think they're going to let him go. Like I think they see how important having a good backup is. And dude, especially with all the weird like injury stuff that keeps going around over there in San Francisco, like, yeah, they're just going to be happy to have their backup quarterback.
Yeah, you got to protect him from those electromagnetic fields or whatever. When you look at this group, Alfredo, is there a bust? And I guess what the question is, I mean, there are clearly some guys who probably don't deserve a chance. Do you see one of these guys getting a chance and it going exactly as poorly as we thought it would?
From the free agent quarterbacks that are listed here?
Yeah, from the potential
anyone.
movers, or I guess any.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound like such a hater right now. I think it's Tua.
Okay.
I think it's Tua. He burned through 2 head coaches. He burned through, I don't know how many offensive coordinators. He had an MVP caliber wide receiver. He's had some of the fastest players in the league at his disposal and a team and an organization that has been very patient with him. And it just hasn't worked out.
And so how's it going to get better?
That's what I'm saying, man. Like everything was kind of set up for him to succeed and he didn't. Now go somewhere else where the pressure's turned up and they're not going to be patient and they're not going to put everything to your liking. Maybe they do. I don't know, but I see it more of like a Russell Wilson going to the Giants. He's going to go somewhere, start for 5 or 6 games. They're going to be like, okay, that was fun. What a mistake. Let's go to the next guy.
I actually have a similar take for a player, but I'll let Josh jump in here first.
I mean, I think Anthony Richardson's toast. I think Justin Fields has already shown that he's not that guy. Those would be the only 2 that I think that
could get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, Fields, shit, it wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh brings him back as like a backup. They liked him. They didn't want him to leave before. I mean, I know it's a different coaching staff, but it's still the same front office.
Yeah, same.
They could look to say, you know what, McCarthy, you work wonders with quarterbacks. We liked this guy once upon a time. The Jets were the ones that ruined him. You can fix him, right? And kind of force him on them, right? Anthony Richardson in the middle of a freaking game when he's working for another team, chatting it up with Kevin O'Connell, being like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to come play for you." Like, okay, how does that set you up for success, right? I mean, I don't know that Anthony Richardson even stays in Indy. Honestly, I think that experiment is just done and over with. Even with Daniel Jones sort of, obviously on the mend and probably not going to be fully healthy for that first month of the season. Those would be kind of the 2 that I would go with. Obviously, outside of Tua, I think his career is pretty much out.
Such a great call with Tua. But the Russell Wilson, that's the exact vibes I'm getting if Kirk Cousins ends up back in Minnesota. I just think they're going to see Cousins coming home and being like this savior. That is not who you're getting. He has proven that time and time again in Atlanta. And I just think Minnesota, it's going to be a very similar situation. Like, we're going to let Cousins start and let JJ watch and 5 starts in, we're gonna be like, nope.
But that's why it's perfect. That's why it's perfect, because you say, oh look, JJ McCarthy, he's the starter.
He's coming to save the day.
He's grown so much.
Yeah. Kirk showed him everything not to do. That's for sure. While we were in the quarterback episode, one of our listeners did have a running back question, and we're not going to make him wait for an entire week, though we will be covering free agent running back next week. So before we move on, Alfredo, do you think Kenneth Walker is still a Seahawk next season?
Dude, did you see the clip today? John Schneider bombed out of his mind at the parade, and he's there on the microphone. He's like, Ken Walker just tried to negotiate his contract with me before we got up here.
And Walker's like,
and Ken Walker's like, just shaking his head. No. He's like, it was awkward. And then he was like, go on, everybody, MVP. And like the whole crowd starts chanting. He's just like shaking his head. Like, that's a dude that's like, I'm going to go get paid.
Yeah.
And
he just won his championship.
He's like, I'm not falling for all this. Like, you guys have been great, but you've also been splitting my workload for years. Yes. And you're going to want a hometown discount and all this. I'm going to go get paid, man. Could you imagine Ken Walker getting paid by the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, not that they have the money, but I'm just throwing a name out there of a good team. Like, you kind of put Ken Walker on any good offense that needs a running back right now, and you go, oh, wow, that's so much better than what he's been in.
I've been such a Ken Walker guy for such a long time, so I want to see him thrive. But Josh, last week or maybe it was during the mock draft show on Monday, I was pretty adamant that I thought he'd be back just because Seattle, to save face, kind of needs him back with losing their offensive coordinator and then losing Zach Charbonnet. But you bring up such an interesting point. He got his ring. He is an NFL running back. He needs to get his bag now.
I mean, we see this all the time. Guys win Super Bowls. They're free agents. Half of them are like, oh yeah, I loved it here, but I'm not giving a discount, right? Like I got what I set out to get. Now it's time for me to set up my future.
Yeah.
And in the way that the NFL works nowadays, like I think Ken Walker's gone. On the mock draft show Monday, I did mention Tennessee. More I think about it, though, I think the Saints are a lot of fun. I think the Saints could be a really good landing spot for Kenneth Walker.
There you go. Looking at next year, there are 2 candidates that are potential free agents heading into next season. Both would be up for an extension. We are talking, of course, about CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Alfredo, if you were the GM of the Carolina Panthers or the Houston Texans, would you extend either of these 2 quarterbacks who haven't lived up to the bill, we'll just say, of those early first-round picks?
I'm going to give the boring answer, and I'm going to say yes, you have to, because you're making the playoffs with these guys. And if I'm the GM, if I'm not extending them, it means I'm admitting defeat. It means that I am admitting a reset, a restart. Right? Like, I've got to start this whole thing all over again and find a quarterback in the draft or pay for one. We just don't see teams do that. Like, very rarely do teams move on. It's less about what I would do and more about like what I think would actually happen.
Yeah.
Like, we rarely see these teams move on from quarterbacks that are just good enough to get them over the hump. Right? I do think that we are going to see teams be a little bit more patient. I think we've seen teams say that Baker Mayfield, that Geno Smith, that Sam Darnold. Right? Like, I think they're just looking at these quarterbacks and saying, okay, let's keep giving Bryce Young more time. Daniel Jones, another guy. Like, a lot of these quarterbacks, they went from being the butt of every joke to us going like, damn, they're actually kind of good. Maybe we should have just been more patient, or they needed a different scenario. These quarterbacks aren't bad. They're just not elite passers right now. And a lot of that has just been they don't have great weapons around them, or the offensive line hasn't been good, or they needed more experience. And I think all those things are kind of getting there. But I think we're also seeing that with other guys like Trevor Lawrence and a bunch of other ones. So yeah, I think these guys do need to be extended.
Josh, I always get these deadlines confused. Can they still each get their 5th-year option, or is that time past? Do they need to be extended at this point?
No. So they've already finished their first 3 years. All these guys were drafted in 2023. So this would be the year that they need to decide whether or not they pick up that 5th-year option.
And they have to do that by like April or something. Like, something it's a weird date.
Yeah. Maybe it's next year. I can't remember.
No,
but
I think you're right.
After 3 seasons, that's when they're officially eligible.
Yeah, I think they have to do it by April of this year. They have to declare whether or not they're doing the 5th year.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Like when you look at like CJ Stroud looked good his first year and has regressed.
Yes.
Bryce Young has quite literally been a roller coaster ride. Started to look a little bit better towards the end of the year. You get him a number 1 wide receiver. It's amazing what things can happen. Offensive line is halfway decent. CJ Stroud's not so much. And the only thing that's fresh in our mind with CJ Stroud is 4 interceptions in the first half of the last playoff game. So when you're staring down the barrel of, you know what, I still have these guys for 2 more years.
Yeah.
Why am I going to rush myself and then find myself within 2 to 3 years dealing with Tua Tagovailoa? Because that is a scenario that could very well play out.
Yeah.
You know, not everything turns into Trevor Lawrence, where you give him that bag after 3 years when he didn't really do anything to deserve it. And then it took hiring the perfect head coach to actually make it feel like you finally got your money's worth. You're not running that. Like, you end up setting your franchise back if you do this. So I think that give him 1 more year, have the extension talks heading into that 5th year, right? I don't know. I think that, again, kind of like what Alfredo was saying, that, you know, you're starting to see some of these reclamation projects that, you know, they bounce around in different teams, they learn different systems, and then things finally start to click, that maybe we don't need to rush into this, because if we don't lock ourselves into this and they end up leaving, maybe we can get lucky and find that reclamation project and be okay in the long run, right? Like, I understand maybe that's a 1 in a million thought process.
It's interesting though, whereas like they could be the cautionary tale, but it could also be the light at the end of the tunnel if we're the one who picks the right one. So,
and that's kind of where I'm at here with these 2 guys. Like the 5th year options, I don't even think are like 30 some odd million for these guys. They're in the like high 20s. So why would I jump and double their freaking salary when I don't need to?
Yeah.
Because it's just going to constrain my cap at that point.
Yeah. All right, folks. Let's wrap this show up with landing spots. So I will mention a lot of the teams we mentioned at the start of the show and give Alfredo and Josh a chance to say who they believe will end up there, focusing mainly on the guys who we believe are going to be free agents. But with this very first team, I think I know both of your answer. Let's start with the Las Vegas Raiders. Alfredo, who do you believe will be the starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders next season?
Fernando Mendoza. Sorry.
And I knew you were going to go there. Boring answer. That's fine. But do you think they try to get one of these guys to be the backup? Do they hang on to Geno to be the backup? Do they let Aiden O'Connell do it?
I mean, I think if you have Geno there and he is willing to stay, you keep him there, because I mean, he does have familiarity with the teammates. I don't know what it's like in the locker room.
Yeah.
Like if he's going to be a cranky old man that he's not the starter anymore, then all right, time to go. Let's get him in somewhere else. Right. I think for the convenience factor, you try to keep him.
Yep. Josh,
I'm kind of along those same lines. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it makes more sense to trade him. I don't think any team is going to trade for him. So at that point, like, sure, you've got a ton of cap space, but why waste it? You just hang on to him.
All right. And now we get to the more interesting team, and probably the most interesting considering what they have in the tank. Josh, I'll start with you here. Who is the starting quarterback for the New York Jets next season?
Yeah, I think they make the move for Kyler Murray.
I also have Kyler. Alfredo, where do you see here?
Kyler as well.
Okay, so it's the Kyler Murray show for the New York Jets. Alfredo, I'll start with you. Kyler's no longer an Arizona Cardinal. Who is the starting quarterback next season?
Oh, I hate this one so much, man. This is the team that like I couldn't match someone with them like at all. Oh God. Derek Carr was a guy that I was thinking, because then he gets to have some revenge on the Raiders and go back against them each year. You've got some good pass catchers set up there with Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Mike Wilson. I mean, it's in a dome too, where like he's gonna have a nice setting. It's not my favorite match, but I couldn't think of anyone else for the Cardinals.
That's fair. Josh, what do you got in Arizona?
I've got Jimmy Garoppolo going there, kind of serving as like a bridge guy, and then them potentially going quarterback in the second or third round and just bringing in like a developmental guy.
if anybody has tuned into these shows in the past, I tend to focus on coach ties. I also have Jimmy Garoppolo going there, but I'm just going to say I think Jacoby Brissett should be the starter. I don't think you need to move on. Josh, I found it interesting you included these guys, so I'll start with you here. The Cleveland Browns, who may already have their quarterback on roster. Do you believe it's on roster, or do you think they're going elsewhere?
Yeah, I think the easy answer would be, yeah, they need to go get somebody, right? Draft somebody else. Like,
if you have 3 quarterbacks, you don't have 1 quarterback.
Exactly, right? And, for all of the Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler. Let's pump the brakes, people. The Pro Bowl is a joke. Shedeur Sanders was not a good quarterback this past year. But Todd Monken was looking at him when he was in Baltimore. Clearly, there's some level of excitement to work with him. But, I mean, there's writers coming out in Cleveland talking about how when Deshaun Watson came back to practice in December, he was the best quarterback on the field. And maybe he gets a clean slate with Todd Monken. They clearly need to do something with Watson because they're paying him a shit ton of money, and getting out from under his contract is just not a thing right now. So yeah. I think they ultimately end up staying with Watson and Sanders.
Yeah, I agree with that, Alfredo. And I was thinking with Watson, obviously not the same player as Lamar Jackson, but when he has been healthy, a similar skill set. And so Todd Monken might see something interesting there, which you certainly aren't going to get that kind of skill set from Shedeur Sanders. But I do think they stick with who they have on roster, Alfredo.
Yeah, same thing. I actually get a little worried that I feel like Todd Monken might end up being the patsy over there in Cleveland.
Yeah. Where
they just kind of do like the litmus test of, okay, let's see what you can do with the ingredients you're given. And they're like, oh, well, this pie actually tastes like shit. It's, it's not the ingredients. It's definitely you. Let's get a new coach, but then let's also get new quarterbacks and let's just start this whole thing over. So
yeah,
it was, I mean, for all the jokes that people were making, yeah, Todd Monken's a good coordinator, but it was a pretty uninspiring move for them to make for a team that was desperate for some sort of a change.
Not only to then upset your defensive coordinator.
Right. Like, you did all these things, and I feel like they're just saying, okay, let's just get 1 year closer to blowing it all up, and maybe we get Arch Manning or something like that. Like, it does feel just like a listless organization that does not know what direction they're going.
Yeah, this is very much when the Texans brought in Lovie Smith for a year and then fired him to go to Steve Wilkes and then fired him to finally get their guy in D'Amico Ryans. That's kind of what this feels like.
At least Todd Monken's getting paid. Alfredo, your Miami Dolphins. Who do you got starting next year?
Malik Willis. I think it's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, we've actually seen John Eric Sullivan, the GM, like they keep doing this thing where they keep bringing in these Packers ties. You bring in a Packers head coach and you bring in other staffers from the Packers. Like it doesn't seem like they're going to stop there. And there's always a sense of, okay, when we're making a new culture, we want to also have a sense of familiarity. Yeah. And one thing that's always been talked about with Malik Willis is that he's a great leader. And coming from Liberty University, where he was a high character guy and all that stuff. If he works out, great. You've got a starting quarterback that's super exciting and knows the offense. If he doesn't, we brought in a good locker room guy and we tried, and it's easy to move on from him. And I think that's what a lot of these teams are going to do. Yeah. They're going to find players they can bring in for a year, and if it doesn't work out, it's an easy move because we're looking at these guys with these massive contracts that are just stuck.
Alfredo, as the Dolphins fan, I think that is a perfect spot for me to let you go ahead and exit because I know you have a commitment at 9:30 tonight.
I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, let's keep going, man. I'm good.
All right, Josh, what do you got at Miami?
I'm the same. I'm going with the chalk. I think it's Willis, and I think they keep Ewers and kind of let them sort of like battle it out in camp and kind of see what they've got. I mean, Ewers once upon a time was, I think, the number one high school quarterback recruit. He was the guy that held off Arch Manning. So like he's got talent and it's just a matter of who can bring it out of him. It'll be interesting to see. I didn't think Ewers looked incredibly terrible those last few starts. I mean, he was a 7th round pick. So, yeah. There's going to be bumps in the road, but maybe with a full offseason. And I think the plus side here is that Bobby Slowick, who got promoted to offensive coordinator, was already there last year as the pass game coordinator. So at least there's somebody that he at least has some familiarity with, while maybe the front office brings in their guy like Malik Willis.
Yeah. Did you see who the new passing game coordinator is?
I laughed my ass off. And I saw, so they brought in former Eagles offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo to be their new pass game coordinator. Now, this is what I find so hilarious. I saw a tweet from Matt Harmon where he's basically talking about everybody's going to be up in arms about this. Patullo was the pass game coordinator for the Eagles, and nobody heard a fucking word about him. And the Eagles actually had some pretty solid pass game concepts while he was not the one calling the plays. This is going to be a blip on the radar, and nobody's even going to know that he's there, which I find hilarious.
I didn't. My biggest concern is the Tua contract. I think they have to. I think they're strapped with Tua. I just don't. It's such an incredible contract hit if they move on. So I personally am keeping Tua there. But I said Willis is probably who it's going to be. Moving on to the Falcons, Josh, new coaching staff there. I guess I don't know enough about Penix's injury to know how desperate the Falcons are, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue isn't necessarily that he's recovering from an ACL. It's that this is, I believe, the third ACL injury he's had and the second one to the same knee. And that's where you start getting a little bit worried.
This is the first on that knee. His first two were the same knee.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Even then, that man's walking on crutches at this point. Like,
we're definitely grasping at straws.
Literally and figuratively, right? So I think ultimately, because Stefanski and this front office did not draft Penix, they don't have any iron in this fire at all. I think they go out. Like I said, I think Tua could be that guy. That to me is more of like a dark horse, dart throw. But I think they make a move for Jacoby Brissett. He knows that offense with Stefanski in their time in Cleveland.
Alfredo, what do you see for Atlanta?
I like that. I was actually going to go something a little more strategic where they're almost trying not to win. Because I keep looking at it this way, man. Like,
well, they already blew their first round pick on a guy that's probably going to be in jail for the next 5 years. So
that's what I'm saying, man. So it's like they can't really do anything this offseason, and I think they're kind of just stuck in the purgatory. Someone in the chat actually said it. Flacco going to the Falcons.
Yeah, that was
like I could see
Millie
that
Mills
as
is
well.
a Falcons fan, so
yeah, like I can see that where there's the connection there, and it's just like, you're not really trying to win, but you don't want to make it look that obvious. I almost said Justin Fields, and I'm like, that's too obvious that you're not trying to win. You have to make it look better than that, or else people won't buy tickets. So you get Joe Flacco, and all you're saying is, well, we want a guy. It's the Kirk Cousins effect. We want a guy that Michael Penix can learn from, and he's really here just to be a backup. If he wins a couple of games, it's because the system is so good. If he loses games, well, it's because he's old, and we can all move on and do a new thing. Like,
yeah.
As much as we always like to think that it's all about the talent and who's good, at the end of the day, like, these are businesses, and they are owned by a business owner at the top that is always thinking, can we win this year? No. Okay. How can we reset this? Like, what's the next move? It's their job to think 2 steps ahead.
I don't remember the exact situation in Cleveland, and Alfredo, you may remember better than me. Was Stefanski the Dylan Gabriel guy? Because I have Dylan Gabriel going here. I think the Browns need to move on. And if Stefanski is the Gabriel guy, why wouldn't that be what he goes and does? So
that's interesting.
I don't know.
I couldn't remember who wanted who, like, through the rumors and everything. So
I don't know if he was actually an Andrew Berry guy. I mean, the rumors were all like super weird that they loved all the quarterbacks and they wanted them all. And then you see them not happy at all when they drafted Shedeur. So, like, there's just, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in Cleveland.
Josh, you got the Colts dealing with the Daniel Jones injury. Who's the starter?
Yeah, I think they bring back Daniel Jones. That was the only point that I made. I think Riley Leonard came in and played halfway decent towards the end of the year, and I think that they'll ride with him as the backup.
Alfredo, any different thought there?
No, I think that's exactly what you do is you wait for Daniel Jones to come back. In the meantime, like I said, if you start Anthony Richardson and he stinks it up for a few games, at least you can close that chapter and say, like, okay, he's not very good. And honestly, it would not surprise me if they went out and also got like a Russell Wilson or one of these guys that can come in and start a couple games, but still like very much be the backup for when Daniel is back out there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe Justin Fields. It's a scramble.
That was another
kind
guy,
of keep your same sort of offense. I don't have that. I believe it's Daniel Jones as well. I said if they do want to move on from Jones, this feels like the best landing spot for Malik Willis. Like, I would love. This is where I want Malik Willis. I just don't see them doing that after what Jones did for them last year. Alfredo, what do you got going on with the Vikings?
With the Vikings, I think it's Kirk Cousins going right back in, man. I think it's a business move, but I think it's a familiarity move. I think it's let's keep Justin Jefferson happy for another year before he blows up on us for not having a good quarterback. And I mean, I think he's still going to blow up on you because Kirk Cousins is not a good quarterback, but the vibes will be a little bit better. I don't know how they get out of this JJ McCarthy thing. Either Kevin O'Connell makes JJ McCarthy good, or they make some sort of crazy move. Like Daniel Jones going to the Vikings would be awesome. I just don't think they're spending free agent money and putting a big contract on a guy that has a torn Achilles. That's the only way you get him is by giving him a fat contract.
And you already gave up on him once.
Well, but again, I think a lot of the reports were that they actually preferred bringing back Daniel Jones over Sam Darnold.
Mm.
Also, the Vikings are 30th in cap space. They have negative 40 million in cap, which I know it's all just a construct, but still, like it's going to make it hard to go out and give possibly the biggest quarterback contract of free agency.
Josh, what do you see in Minnesota?
I think they stick with JJ McCarthy. I like the idea of Kirk Cousins, but I think they go get Anthony Richardson.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, there's been that thing where Kevin
put the tea leaves out there,
giving him like the little whispers in his ear.
Exactly.
Like,
they're talking.
You've got a long career. Yeah.
he put the fire out there, and I think he's gonna throw a shit fit when they bring back Daniel Jones and be like, "I want out," blah blah blah, and Vikings be like, "Here's the 7th round pick. Here you go."
I also went boring and say Kirk Cousins. I do think McCarthy's the starter, but I also think this could be a Jimmy G landing spot if he's cool with being a backup again. He knows the system. And Alfredo, bring us home with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You guys did it. You convinced me. Aaron Rodgers. I'm thinking of it this way. I had to actually get out of football mindset and just go, I'm Aaron Rodgers. I am old. I don't want to go learn something new. I want comfort. What does every old man want? They want comfort. Yes. New things scare old men every single day. So just go right back to what's comfortable in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers, play one more year, sign the 1 year deal, and then just do it all again next offseason and make everyone guess where you're going again.
Yeah.
The only thing that would be funnier is if he went to Minnesota and just completed the Favre cycle.
I mean,
it'd be perfect.
Aaron Rodgers managed to get Mike Tomlin fired. I know he wasn't fired, folks, but now I'm just wondering how many coaches Aaron Rodgers is the kiss of death for. Josh, what do you got in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm with you on Rodgers going back there, but I have another curveball, and I want to give Hoove a shout on this one. I think the Steelers make a move for Spencer Rattler.
Let me go grab that comment real quick.
Yeah, I think that with Rattler, him getting the opportunity to start with New Orleans, he didn't play bad. The defense was just terrible until they finally started to figure it out. And when you remember when Kellen Moore kind of got into the swing of things, there was some overlap in Dallas with Kellen Moore and with Mike McCarthy. So I think that there's some similarities in that system where Spencer Rattler could come in, kind of be compete with Will Howard, who the organization seemingly likes. But again, 6th round, you're talking about dart throws behind a 42-year-old quarterback. I think that there's something to Rattler kind of being somewhat familiar with this system, that they've got somebody that can compete during OTAs when Rodgers inevitably sits out because he already knows what the fuck he's doing. He's old. He doesn't want to play until the games really get going. And then you let the younger, later round draft picks kind of show what they can do. I think there's something to the idea that maybe they make a move on Rattler.
There you go. I have Rodgers, but I think maybe, I don't know their relationship, but McCarthy's last year in Dallas was with Trey Lance. Maybe if McCarthy liked anything he saw there, Trey Lance comes in and learns behind Aaron Rodgers, and again, disappoints everybody. Let me quickly go through the chat predictions. Millie has Kyler to Pittsburgh. I think that's a fine fit. If it happens, I don't think it's any better or worse than the Jets. Hoove has the Cardinals getting Kirk Cousins. Sure. Alfredo, you made such a great point with Aaron Rodgers, is old men want peace and familiarity. I think Minnesota just gives that to him in droves. And then Hoove made his point for Mac Jones to the Falcons, saying, there's a connection there. Shanahan, Matt Ryan, and then just the Mac Jones connection. And then who says Kyler Murray to the Colts? I think Kyler Murray is going to be the wild card here, going to one of these teams that has a ready-made offense. It's just, can he take advantage? And I truly just don't know that he can. Alfredo, thank you so very much. Thank you for riding with us for an extra 5 minutes. I want to get you out of here quickly, but please, one more time, let everybody know the new stuff you got going on so they can make sure they're tuned in.
Yeah, first you can follow me on all the social media apps at Alfredo A. Brown. I've got the Pretend GM Fantasy Football Show that I'm doing twice a week. I do like a quick hitting solo thing, like 15 minutes. And then I have guest interviews every week as well. I'm going to be covering the NFL draft and dynasty football throughout the offseason here, and then back to redraft when I get in the regular season. And then for Front Row Media, we've got Front Row NFL Show, where it's myself, Jagger May, Sam Holt. You can find that wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And also, just for those of you who you want to get outside of football and you're just really into like TV, movies, pop culture, all that stuff, we have Unbinged. It is a ton of fun. We have been doing weekly episodic breakdowns for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and The Pit and all the biggest shows on TV, where we're just recapping them, breaking them all down, talking about it every single week. We just have a ton of fun with that.
It's my favorite thing to do when I'm not taking in fantasy information. Josh, what do we got going on at Club Fantasy?
Next week we continue our free agent preview episodes, and we're hitting on the running backs. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we'll have some combine coverage as well from Women of Fantasy Football. So obviously, if you're not following them, please do so at women_FF. Sam Holt, the aforementioned, Kelly Singh, Renee, and Rosalie Michaels were just covering the Super Bowl. So if you're not following Women of FF, you missed out on a lot of kick-ass content from some baller ladies that really know their shit. It was a lot of fun sifting through all that footage to upload to the socials. So,
yeah, I have nothing to add. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We will be back next week, 9:00, to talk running backs. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week.